even though that hurts going down, you can't spit it out. You have to swallow it. That's the truth.
We're here to tell you the truth. And with us, it is Altitude Football on this President's Day. DMac and Chad Brown. Chad, who's your favorite president?
Lincoln.
It's a good one. It's a tough one to top. Gotcha. I actually went a deep dive into Lyndon Baines Johnson. What do you know about LBJ?
Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act. LBJ was very progressive domestically. Most of his failings came internationally. So I've got a bit of a sense about LBJ. I've actually owned a couple of books on presidents. One of those weirdos. One was ranking them from best to worst. Others are a little bit more of a historical deep dive. So I got my presidential lore rattling around up here a bit.
I'm very impressed. Well, I didn't know any of that until about a week ago, and I went on a little bit of a deep dive. And Vietnam. If LBJ could have kept us out of Vietnam, if he could have read the tea leaves there from some of his advisors and just got out, he might have gone down as one of the better presidents. And he was a sitting president that just said, I'm not doing this shit again. I've had it. And our guy Joe Biden did that too. But,
Yes.
Not a lot of sitting presidents. In fact, he was the first one to ever just not run. And then Biden said, hold my beer. We're here not to talk about presidents, though, although great day to buy a mattress. We're here to talk about football, the Broncos, and the situation with Tyreek Hill. Oh, my goodness gracious. What, first of all, is going on in Miami, Chad?
New coach, new GM, new team. This happens every single year. Miami made a run. Well, they thought they should make a run. So they signed guys like Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb and gave them big deals because these are the guys that are going to propel us to a championship. And when that falls apart, as evidenced by needing a new coach and needing a new GM, then you got to move on from those players. And so those guys are now available. I'm not surprised based on their lack of success. And this is going to happen every year in the NFL. And this year, it's just the Dolphins' turn.
All right. What do you think? Tyreek Hill. What do you do if you're the Denver Broncos? He suffered an ACL injury in week 4. He's 32 years old. Through his divorce, he was accused by his divorcing wife of 8 incidents of domestic violence. Ouch. What do you do with Tyreek Hill?
First off, from a football perspective, it was more than an ACL. He dislocated his knee.
He did.
It was a horrific knee injury. So I'm not sure when he's actually going to be available. And I know technology and medical science have gotten guys back on the field after an early season ACL the next year to start the season. For a guy whose game is explosion, speed, cutting ability, I'm not sure when he would be available because of that dislocated knee. So that's ugly. And then all that off the field baggage, which just seems to have continued with him. Let's not forget he was arrested, detained outside of the stadium earlier this season as well. So I think the Broncos, while the talent is tantalizing, that seems like an Andy Reid and Chiefs kind of pickup. Let's get this guy on a discount, see what he has, and we'll deal with the off the field stuff. Doesn't seem like the kind of locker room that George Payton and Sean Payton are trying to build.
Oh, what are you trying to say about the Kansas City Chiefs?
I'm not trying to say anything. I'm talking about facts. I'm talking about their business model. The Bengals and the Chiefs both like to go after guys who have gotten into trouble because they can get them cheap. It's a pretty good philosophy. I don't think that's George Payton's philosophy, and I don't think that's Sean Payton's philosophy, and I don't think the Broncos ownership is down with that kind of philosophy.
All right. For the record, I'm not a big Tyreek Hill guy, okay? And mostly for the off-the-field stuff. I think all the reasons you laid out were good, okay? So let me just lay that out there. But in terms of just a devil's advocate argument, okay, I think he'll come back and just be fine. Believe it or not, his $29 million is kind of like, it's kind of the going rate for receivers. And it wasn't but 2 years ago where he was like the player of the year. You don't have a guy like that. In fact, when was the last time you ever had a guy like that? everybody knows Cortland Sutton is more of a number 2 than a number 1 anyways. And here's a guy who can take the top off. Isn't that what you're looking for? If not Tyreek Hill, because George Pickens will likely be franchised, who else is there, Chad, that's even close to Tyreek Hill that's available? And I might have an answer, but it's not a free agent. But go ahead. I'd like to throw that out at you, and then I'll give you a possible solution.
Well, that's making an assumption that Tyreek Hill can be Tyreek Hill. I'm not sure if he can be that guy again. And he certainly made it seem as if he was considering hanging it up after that injury. The guy has made a ton of money. And so I'm not guaranteed that if he would be healthy, he would want to play. And if he did, would he want to be take the top off the defense guy and not get 100 targets over the course of the season? Would he not instantly walk in and see himself not as a piece, but as the guy? So you've got, I think, far more potential risk here than you've got possible reward.
But you think another team will pick him up, and you look at a team like Kansas City.
I think he's already been in Kansas City. It's interesting to bring the devil back that you already know. I don't want a new devil in here. No, I'll get that guy out of here. But that guy we already know. We know his issues. Yeah, he's a clown, but we figure out a way to deal with that. And he knows how to deal with us. So I think it's more of that type of situation. And why not finish in Kansas City where you started?
The trade that was put together by Bill Barnwell, and he was suggesting teams for most of the teams in the NFL, was this. Tell me what you think. A.J. Brown and a 5th-round pick. That's what the Broncos get. And to the Eagles goes Riley Moss, a 2026 second-round pick, 2027 5th-round pick. What do you think of that bad boy?
Well, clearly the marriage between A.J. Brown and the Eagles is not going to last. And I think they got to get him out of there before he destroys their locker room. So is that just a situation with the Eagles, or is this a guy who's impossible to keep happy? Again, you've got something good over here. So any additions you bring in, you've got to think about not just the contributions on the field, but you got to think about the locker room. You got to think about the wide receiver room these guys are going to go into. Now, wide receiver rooms I think they're probably more used than any other room of dealing with divas. But how much diva behavior can one room take? And what if Bo Nix has a slight regression? And do we remember Hamler throwing his helmet in the back of the end zone with Russell Wilson and all that stuff? If you bring in receivers who expect to get the ball and suddenly we're leaning on the run game more and there's not enough balls to go around, now you got another issue. So I get it. A top flight receiver seemingly is the piece of this offense that is missing. Somebody who can truly threaten the defense, play in and play out, can allow Sean Payton to do all this scheming and set things up. But there's a reason why somebody would be getting rid of or possibly trading a top flight wide receiver is because he's a headache and it's more hassle than it's worth.
I bring up the case of Tom Brady and Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown's a, nut job on a lot of levels and may spend the rest of his life in jail, actually, which sounds crazy that I'm using this as an example, but Tom Brady.
Go ahead.
Tom Brady realized when he went to Tampa, the window is very small. And remarkably, for 1 year, they won a Super Bowl. I mean, it worked. Kinda. I mean, Antonio Brown was catching touchdowns in the Super Bowl, Chad, from Tom Brady. Now it went haywire after that, but for a very small window, unbelievably, it actually worked. Is the window small enough for the Broncos in terms of opportunity that you'd roll the dice on something short-term that you wouldn't normally consider long-term?
Okay, so now you're asking George Payton and Sean Payton to lick their finger and go in the locker room and test the winds. Is our locker room strong enough for the Patriots to do that, or a team led by Tom Brady and all those other veterans they had in Tampa Bay to do that? I get it. Yeah, we bring this guy in. We give him some guidelines. If he doesn't work out, we move on. If he works out, great. We use him as long as we can, and then we get rid of him. That's certainly a established philosophy within the NFL with teams who are trying to make a go for the Super Bowl. But is your locker room strong enough to deal with that? Does this guy become friends and the young guys who haven't been around long enough to know it's a freaking business? And do they get all emotionally attached? And when you release them at the end of the season, I'm not sure what they're doing upstairs. Those guys, they don't even get, this was a part of our locker room. It's one of my brothers. No, kick rocks, kid. We'll bring someone else in. So there's that aspect as well. I'm with you. If this team and locker room is mature enough to do that, then you can go after A.J. Brown. If it works, great. He can keep his head on straight, then great. Maybe it goes from a 1-year rental to a 2-year rental, and you structure the contract accordingly because he's certainly talented on the football field. Again, those other pieces, again, if your locker room is strong enough, how do we deal with this? How do we handle this?
By the way, I put it out about Tyreek Hill on social media, and it was resoundly thumbs down on that. I think people have just had enough, and they've got their doubts, and who knows if he's really going to bounce back. For the record, I am too. Although I will tell you this, I'm not against a player. When it comes to domestic abuse, I kind of just draw the line there. I don't care. I don't care how good you are. It's too much for me to stomach. So if that's part of your past, and sometimes I have advocated for athletes, Chad, to only find out later what I didn't know. And I always feel bad about that. So to me, that's kind of a line in the sand, but the NFL ain't filled with choir boys, my friends. And that's just the world we live in. But for me, Tyreek's out. A.J. Brown, it looks like it's just more of a malcontent situation unless there's something I don't know. And so to me, I would go for it, and if it cost me Riley Moss, then I'd be okay with that because why did you draft Jahdae Barron anyways? And you do got Jaquan McMillan, and it would suck losing Moss, but, you got to give something good to get something good. Other than that,
where are you going to find another white corner? Where are you going to find another white corner?
Well, ironically, in Philadelphia with Cooper DeJean. So,
right. Well, he's not available, so they would have 2 white corners. They would have the lock on the only 2 in the league. They would have an unfair advantage because they're both gym rats and they're sons of coaches and all the white cliches that go with every white player.
Boy, they are gym rats, man. They just love putting up shots. They are gym rats. They're not athletes.
I gotta lock this kid out the gym.
Right.
I can't keep him out.
Right. They're not athletes. They're gym rats. You got an important distinction. All right, we're going to turn our eyes to the defensive side of the ball in just a second.
There's a world of flavor out there, and to find it, you have to take the journey. Journey Spice Company handcrafts the most premium spice and seasoning blends that have no sugar, no salt, are certified USDA organic, non-GMO, vegan-friendly, and always planet-friendly. You are going to love serving amazingly delicious creations while knowing you helped reduce single-use plastics. Make sure to search for Journey Spice Company on Amazon today.
Save 10% using the code 2026 playoffs, and it's easy to use the QR code right there for Journey Spice. Chad, what are you cooking tonight?
Tonight is chicken breast. You're always in competition. In this case, I'm in competition with myself. Chicken breast is like such a hard meat to cook properly. So can I keep it juicy and tender while cooking it all the way through? I don't know, but I do know I put some Journey Spice on. It's going to be delicious. We'll see if I can make it juicy and tender at the same time. Tonight, it's going to be that Mediterranean blend, which is one of my favorites. It's got a little spearmint. I think it's one of the first ingredients in there. Gives it a fresh, minty flavor. It's going to be great with a salad I'm preparing as well.
There's some Mediterranean right there for you. It's flavor in, plastic out. Man, that sounds delicious, Chad. Good luck on keeping that chicken breast juicy. Mine just always tastes like leather. So that's what my wife does. God, she tries, though. But it's tight and tough. We had chicken with Journey Spice last night. The chicken was leather. It tasted good, though, with the Journey Spice. We move on to the defensive side of the ball, and we thank you, Journey Spice. You are the best. All right. I guess we shouldn't be that surprised because it's a fire sale in Miami. But Bradley Chubb becomes available, and boy, we're full circle on Chubb in the 2018 draft. Okay, Chad. Any interest in Bradley Chubb? You know what's funny? Here's what's funny. You could have Bradley Chubb and Von Miller back to the Broncos if you really wanted to.
Yeah, 20 sacks, I think, over the last 2 years for Bradley Chubb. He's always been productive when he's been healthy. He just hasn't always been healthy. And so you don't know when that next issue is going to crop up. For him, it would be all about the contract. Obviously, pass rushers, defensive line guys, they rotate a lot. So if you could get 40% of the snaps out of him, how much are you willing to pay for that? Certainly not tops in the market, but $10 million a year, that feels like a steal for a guy with his past 2 years productivity level. So yeah, George Paton, I think it comes down to the dollar figure for both him and for Von Miller, because Von Miller's still showing a high level of pass rush productivity. His run grade is kind of falling off the charts, but pass rush, Von Miller can still do it.
So you'd put in a phone call about Bradley Chubb, huh? You'd talk to Chubb's agent, see what's what?
It's like the one position where you can't have enough. And those guys, yeah, we've got our core guys. Mm-hmm. We've got our Jonathan Cooper. We've got our Nick Bonito. We've got our young guys who are under rookie contracts. We got our Ellis. That's great. Mm-hmm. Now we can bring in a couple of veterans to fill the spots. That would be awesome as well. Why not keep the productivity up? They were the most productive, damn hard word to say, edge group in the league this last year. So to go back to them and add even more firepower to it, why not make a strength even stronger?
Well, I'm going to go Mike Kliss making a note. Broncos doled out contract extensions to 10 players over the last 18 months. No franchise tags are expected as that starts tomorrow. There's a 2-week window for franchise tags. So we will get some NFL news tomorrow, and I'm going to guess George Pickens is one of them with the Cowboys. Among the free agents, Alex Singleton may be a priority, but inside linebackers are lumped in with outside linebackers. Ouch. And that hurts. And the tag is 27.5. So you are not going to pay Alex Singleton $27.5 million for 1 year. Looks like we're going to get closer and closer to letting Alex Singleton test the waters there, Chad. I'm still not exactly sure what they're going to do with Dre Greenlaw. They don't have to do anything. They can just keep him. But things seem weird there. And we may be barreling down the path for an inside linebacker being drafted at 30. Although, if Kenyon Sakid, right? Is that it? Is there from Oregon, seems hard to pass on. So let me approach this one step at a time. What would you do with Alex Singleton?
I would try to sign him, but that's a position. While Alex Singleton was great and had great production, it's one of those kind of dependent positions, and he's got so many great players around him. It'd be hard to imagine other players couldn't be productive with those teammates around him as well. You don't pay a lot for an inside linebacker. Very lucky for those guys to be, I suppose, probably more unlucky for them to be lumped in with the outside linebackers, because they're never going to be tendered with those offers because their play and their rarity doesn't warrant that kind of number. I got to think Alex Singleton, if you were to give him 12 to 15 million bucks, that would be towards the tops of the inside linebacker market. It's not quite Fred Warner money, but he's not nearly as dynamic as Fred Warner. So how do you reward productivity? Is that a multi-year deal with some good money up front because he's tough and he goes out and plays after testicular cancer surgery? Or do you just say, you know what? It's just a football decision, man. We can't pay that position that kind of money.
Last one for you before we get to some CU stuff quickly. Max Crosby. This may be a real shot in the dark, but would you trade for Max Crosby? For example, he's an example of a guy who's just burned out of his organization, his team. They're starting all over. Would you give up a first-round draft pick and maybe a Jonathan Cooper for Max Crosby?
Wow. It takes your defensive front from dynamic to like super freaking dynamic. Max Crosby plays against the run in the pass. He's literally one of those guys. Rising tide lifts all boats. Jonathan Cooper is incredibly solid, but he's not the player Max Crosby is. Gosh.
Jonathan Cooper in a first-round draft pick. If you're the Raiders, how does that sound?
I think the Raiders are looking to stockpile as many picks as possible. I think Clint Kubiak would love it.
Yeah, for a guy who's not going to be there in the long haul anyways. You know what I mean? Like, he's kind of out of there. And, I don't think Jonathan Cooper might be a long-term solution, but he's going to be an impactful player for you, for the Raiders.
Yeah.
Certainly stems the tide for a year while you develop everything else. And you've picked up another first-rounder.
I think Max Crosby for Cooper and a first rounder from a football perspective, like on the field perspective, that one makes sense. I'm just trying to think about the rest of the team, his high salary, how all that fits and works. If we were to remove all of that, just the trade Cooper and first round pick, I'm doing it every time. Okay. Every single time. We've got such a deep edge group. You could save him. He wouldn't have to play 90% or 95% of the snaps. You could bring his snaps down a bit. He could be even more explosive and more dynamic. There's a lot to be said for this move, but it would be an inside the division trade. That typically doesn't happen. So there's also that. But I'm sure Clint Kubiak is just willing to move on and gather as many draft picks as he can.
Well, there's a lot of websites that I'm not familiar with, and a lot that I just don't tell my wife about. But Polymarket, whatever that is, says that the Broncos are the favorites to make that trade, whatever the hell Polymarket is.
Yeah.
Final note for you, the CU Buffs have a schedule change. They will play Georgia Tech on September 3rd. That's in good old Atlanta, Georgia. Campus is right there, right outside of downtown Atlanta. All right, Chad, see you getting another shot on ESPN Prime. Like we can't quit you. That's what ESPN is saying to Prime, Chad. We just can't quit you. And they put CU back on national TV. What's your reaction to that?
I love the exposure. Anytime our program gets exposure is going to be good. I've seen what CU has gotten in the transfer portal. It all seems like guys from lower divisions who are extremely productive. So how does that translate to a higher division? I think it's going to be a bit of hit and a bit of miss. Some guys are going to be ready for that step up and play. Some guys aren't. None of this strikes you as the Louis comments that Coach Prime came in with. You're taking guys from lower level. It's more like a coach bag. It's not a Louis bag. You're taking a coach bag, and maybe it's the nicest of all the coach bags available, but it's a coach bag. It's not Louis. It's not Balenciaga. It's none of that high-end fashion stuff. So, but
wait, what is it? Is it a Target bag? Wait, is it a Safeway bag that I keep in the back of my car so I don't have to pay 10 cents for a bag in Colorado? What kind of bag are we talking about?
These are coach bags. These are the best of the coach bags. So they're getting guys from lower division schools who were productive. I think it's a smart model to go after. Okay. The Patriots had their first run of success when they went out and got the Larry Izzos and the Mike Vrabels and all these guys who were productive and undervalued where they were and turned them into very good players for the Patriots. So the same could be said for Coach Prime. If he's able to get a couple of awesome transfers, get all these great glue guys, something can be made from that. I think it's a better model than what they went with in the past with give me every high-profile recruit who's disgruntled at his current school, and I'll find a way to pay him. Well, that shit didn't work. Right. So now he's going after, the third model of building a football team? Hopefully it works out. But to your point about the Thursday night ESPN game, I'm happy that they're on TV. Chances are, because it's a Thursday game in the early part of the season, I'll get that game. Because early in the season, I'll do one or two double headers. So if it's a standalone game on Thursday, which it probably will be, I will get the Thursday game and a Saturday game that week. So I'll get a chance to do both. I did CU Georgia Tech this year. Of course, it was in Boulder. But I'm looking forward to hopefully now getting that game.
How about that? So from a personal note, that looks kind of fun and likely. Yeah. That's pretty good. You could be like Indiana too, back at the Brinks truck and try to recruit as many 25-year-olds as you want. I mean, that could work. I didn't realize the age of the Indiana Hoosiers until relatively recently. Okay. I mean, if you're going to get those second level guys, Chad, bring them in with the family. Although, who was that coach who was saying, hey, you wives of my college football players, you got to make sure they sleep and don't have to wake up the baby. That wasn't that in the case of the Ole Miss quarterback that was looking for his 9th year of eligibility, something along those lines.
That kid's coming back. Chambliss got his waiver. He's coming back.
Yeah, Chambliss. It's not his 9th; it's his 6th year. I'm being a little facetious.
There's someone who's playing their 9th season of college football who was recruited during the Obama administration. Seriously.
And Indiana had a lot of older players. I mean, there's
a lot of those Indiana players came with Signetti from James Madison, though.
13 of them. 13
yes.
did. And there were 5 significant players on the championship team. I'm just saying, if you're going to get guys that are kind of the going through it, I'm just saying get guys who are a little bit older, man. I mean, that's all. And I'll tell you this. They may not be Louis, okay? But they're going to appreciate being at CUE. Like, they're going to be grateful to be there. I guess speaking from my own personal experience with my son, do you know how much more he appreciates college now that he's been through the mill as an athlete? And by the way, when he was an athlete, he didn't care. He didn't care about the school, didn't care about nothing. He was looking out for the betterment of himself, and he went through the mill with it. He has real pride in being at CU as an older transfer student. It's not the worst thing in the world, Chad, because those kids, young men, are probably more likely to learn the fight song, literally and metaphorically, in terms of buying into whatever culture you're presenting. I am rooting for CU. This is not what Prime promised, but I don't care about that. I just want to see it work, Chad.
Okay, quick analogy.
Yeah.
So every NFL team that I've been on has a guy who his nightlife is the biggest part of his life. He's an NFL player, but it's the biggest part of his life. So he comes in, he's got his buds who he hangs with as a rookie, and within a couple of years, they get in relationships. They get serious about being in the NFL, so they start to peel off from this guy. And then he has to go out and recruit a new group of guys to be his nightlife bros. Because no older guy, they're too smart. They've seen this before. They're not falling for that shit. And so this 7 or 8 year vet is now hanging out with the rookies because they're the only ones dumb enough to do what he's doing. So I'm wondering if that is analogous to what Coach Prime is doing, that I couldn't get guys from Alabama and Georgia anymore. I couldn't get those guys. So now I got to get these other guys who are probably a little bit more desperate. I hope that's not the case. But again, I've seen this similar thing happen over my years in the NFL, and this gives me a little bit of pause with this new model here. What's the next model? You're going to go junior college after that?
Well, then you get into listen, I got nothing against the junior college route. Not necessarily. It's just that a lot of kids in that junior college route are in junior college for reasons, and a lot of them don't have to do with ability. A lot of them, most of the reasons that the better kids are in JUCOs are for off the field sort of discipline or lack of maturity or whatever reasons. A lot of really good talent in junior college football. It comes with baggage, obviously. But I don't know, man. I think having a culture of just start with wanting to be there, and I think you're always going to have problems with the Jordan Seatons of the world at CU. Always. Like LSU, Chad, is always going to have football. Alabama is always going to have football. You know what I'm saying? So if you get somebody like Jordan Seaton again, come on, man. How are you going to keep that cat for more than 2 years, right? Like he's going to be gone one way or the other if he's really like Jordan Seaton, as Seaton is gone now after 2 years. And I don't have any ill will towards Seaton whatsoever. He's doing the best for him and his family. And, God bless him. You know, we went through it as an ASU family watching Jaden Daniels go off to LSU as well. I kept rooting for him, and I think my son kept rooting for a bus to hit him, but not severely, just run over his ankle or something. But that being said, we will be back on Thursday at 6 o'clock for Altitude Football, Chad Brown and DMac Show. Until then, remain annoying to everybody in your.
Well, it'd be a pain in the ass for him.